All right, here we are. We are back for another episode of the Thursday Thread. My name is Andy Lockwood, and with me is CPA business guru Neil Guilmette. Good morning, Neil.
Good morning, Andy.
Heard you had a good Thanksgiving, and congratulations on your haircut and beard trim.
Thank you. I finally got it done. I got somebody to come in and do it.
Yes. Well, I'm glad one of us is ready for prime time. I'm still dressed in my sweats. So, all right. So today's a little bit of a departure from our typical show because each week we've been talking about different, I guess, aspects or different bits of advice that that you give other accountants. You've been at this about 40 years. We've talked about the thread that runs through the thread of continuity that runs through the four components of an optimized business, but we haven't really started to break those down so much. So today we thought we would focus on the first component. So and use me in my college advising business as a case study. So why don't you briefly summarize the four components and then take it away, fire away your questions. You can grill me, and then we'll take it from there.
Absolutely, Andy. As we always start off, there are four components to an optimized business. And I don't care if it's a professional practice, a plumber, I don't care what business you're in, there are four components. And those four components are very simply, number one is creating a steady stream of the right kind of prospects or opportunities that are perfect for your business. And that requires a lot of things like defining the perfect opportunity and et cetera. Because until you create those opportunities, you have nothing to close. So it's efficiently creating the right opportunities that are perfect for your business, that are your ideal client. Once you can create them, you have to convert them to high profit relationships. That's another whole process. When you convert them to a high profit relationship, because there's no point in low profit relationships, it's a waste of everybody's time. When you create, you have to keep them. You have to do what we call deliver on your value promise, because there is a value promise in the first part of creating. There's a value promise inside there. And then that same value promise has to have a thread of continuity to how you close the relationship or create the relationship. Once you create the relationship, you have to deliver on the value promise that the client expected. And if you've done all three of those things properly, but you're not running your factory at optimum efficiency, you're wasting your time, because all the money that you made on the way in is going out the door as it goes through the inoperable or inefficiently operated factory. My expertise in all four of those components, my weakest one is in number one. My weakest one is in the direct marketing aspects of bringing business in the door. And what I see happen often, and I see it with large firms, small firms, professionals don't want to have to be the one to manage their own marketing because they don't know how to do it. So they shuffle it off. I have a client that I'm working with right now. He is on his fourth technology guy who was going to make his website work and bring in business. Well, the third guy, he's on the fourth one because the third guy over the last 6 months, excuse me, had promised him all sorts of activity, because what he really needed was SEOs. And everybody's talking about SEOs. Well, he had 6 months to develop and we haven't gotten a single lead. So there's another one down the tubes. Now we're on our fourth guy. Excuse me. And the problem is that as a professional, you need to take charge of your marketing. You need to take charge of the process that you use to create your leads. And of all the people I've met over the last 40 years in business, Andy, you are the most successful and the most knowledgeable on direct marketing, bar none. I've met a lot of people. I've had a lot of people that I've tried to work with. You're the only one that I found that really knows what you're doing and really makes an impact and creates the results. And that's what we're here to talk about today, creating results. What I'd like to do, if we could, is if you could start off by just talking about the specific results that we talked about a little bit earlier that you've created for yourself.
Yeah. So a lot of what you're saying about the frustration that was sort of between the lines about the clients that you have whose marketing has never really worked really resonates with me, because I've been through all the same things too. I've been to all kinds of seminars over the last 21 years, hired all types of people, and then I realized what you said kind of early on, thankfully, which is that there's only so much that you can outsource. Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest transition that I made was when I heard a guy named Dan Kennedy, who I recommend anyone watching this, read all of his books. He's very prolific, so that may be a tall order. But I remember hearing him say something at a seminar I went to probably around 2001, which was that we professionals. So I'm a college advisor, which is similar to an accountant. We do a lot of financial aid prep, but we also help kids get into college. But I have a professional business. I needed to stop thinking of myself as being in that business, as being a XYZ baker, butcher, candlestick maker, accountant, lawyer, whatever, and instead a marketer of my business, of my services. And that was really a big deal for me, because it kind of blew my mind, because I just figured, well, I'm really good at, I practiced law for 5 years, and I went on my own, and then I was in financial services. And I thought, okay, well, we're really good, so we're just going to get all the clients that we need. They're going to hear about us somehow magically, but it just wasn't working that way. So then I started, trying to talk to people about SEO back then, and it never really worked other than sporadically, until I realized that, okay, no one knows my business better than me. No one knows my clients better than I do. Most marketing people, they don't have a real business other than being a marketing consultant. If you like the guy that you mentioned who worked for 6 months on search engine optimization and didn't produce any results, I would be curious before I hired someone like that, like, how do they rank for their own business? Like if a marketing guy or a Yellow Pages, person is pitching you on something, I'd like to see proof that it works, or that it works for them if they're independents. And
the problem you have, Andy, is out there is that, and I'm working with several of my clients in this area right now, and I keep telling them what we're going to be talking about today, but they keep listening to what I call marketing Harrys.
Yeah.
And marketing Harrys are the ones that, oh, we can do this and we do that, and they use a lot of marketing jargon.
Right.
But one thing they always say to you is, we cannot guarantee results.
Right.
Well, I'm not paying you to guarantee an effort. I mean, I can pay anybody to guarantee an effort. I want a result. And if you're not willing to talk to me about the results, or at least give me a ballpark of what results I can reasonably expect, why am I going to move forward? And that's my questions. And unfortunately, my clients don't ask those same questions. So you're the one that creates results, and it's process driven. And what you need to do is you need to understand, which I'm learning from you and becoming much better at myself. I'm learning the processes necessary to create that steady flow. So it's not about, and I'm working with a 2,000 partner accounting firm, and they just redid their image, their logo, and their marketing is pitiful.
Yeah.
Because nobody calls on their, I mean, they've got marketing departments, they've got marketing managers, they've got levels and layers, and they're not getting any leads. But hard to get to them to get them to listen.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is everything should be measurable, right? So for example, if, I remember when I was in-house counsel to a publicly traded financial services company in Miami in the 90s, we'd hired Don Shula, the late great Don Shula, as our spokesperson, and we, including me, we went around to different ad agencies to hear them pitch us on ideas on how to capitalize on this relationship. We did it really backwards. First we hired him, then we tried it, then we were like, okay, now we have to figure out how to use him. And I remember very distinctly, every ad company that we walked into, the first thing you saw in the lobby was their trophy case of all the awards, the Peabody, this. And I was like looking at these things. I'm like, well, what are these? Like, who gives them to, who gives these awards out? It's like the Oscars. They get them from peers where they sort of, congratulate each other, slap each other on the back. They're not based on results. They're not based on business or benefit to the client. And a lot of clients just, they don't have the wherewithal, or they're too caught up in their own, running their own business, to really ask critical questions like, well, okay, if you're going to redesign my logo and we're going to have this new mission statement and we're going to rebrand, you showed me a couple of weeks ago, I think the firm that you're mentioning,
rebranding, right? Yeah.
It was full of all this gobbledygook, and it was an explanation about the logo. This new logo means that, blah, 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 and it's more inclusive and it's more this and more that. I'm thinking, like, who gives a flying what about the logo? It's about, what can you do for me? Can you lower my taxes?
Right.
Anyway, I think it's very easy for marketing people and ad people to sort of get caught up in, like, what they think is important.
The wonder of what they do.
Yeah, but for the average small business that does 7 figures or a little bit less or a little bit more, I don't know that we have budgets like Coca-Cola, which can run a Super Bowl ad for a couple $1 million with polar bears drinking soda, and think that was a good ad. I think the way I think is, if I'm going to invest $5,000 on an ad campaign, I better get back $10,000 to $15,000 within 30 days, and over lifetime that should be like $50,000. That's
or I'm actually putting myself out of business.
Yeah, and it's until you learn the principles of direct marketing, you don't have to do it all yourself. I mean, you can outsource it to people, but you still have to. You can't be lazy about it, and you have to learn how to attract clients. Like everything you talked about in the beginning, the high value clients, the people that you want to do business with, and give them something of value, and then continue to communicate that value. Until you learn how to do that, to reach your market in a systemized way, not a fluke, then you're going to be subject to ups and downs of business. Revenue is going to be up one month, down another month. It's going to be very choppy, very stressful.
Let me give you a recent example. Working with one of my clients, we had a marketing person in. So what are you going to do for us? He said, well, we're going to revamp your image and this and that. And okay, yeah. I've heard all that. What else are you going to do? What are you going to do to draw clients or prospects in the door? And he said, well, we're going to write copy for you. You're going to write copy for us. Well, may I ask you a question? What is our unique value proposition? And I got a blank stare. I said, so if you don't understand right now what our unique value proposition is and how that's relevant to the people that we want to attract, how are you going to write copy?
Yeah. You're just going to write whatever you feel like writing, as opposed to knowing your clients.
We have a young lady who's graduated from Oneonta, and she's got 3 years of experience, and she has a degree in marketing. She does all our copywriting for us. Isn't that wonderful? What is she going to know about my business? Deer in the headlights there. So there is a problem, is that everybody's throwing panaceas out there, but none of them work. That's a perfect example of it. So what you do is so different than that. You come at it from a totally different angle. And that's what I'm learning. That's what I've been learning from you, that the approach is you need to be in control of it. Like you said, you've got to be in control from the beginning to the end. How do I go about, if I'm listening to this, I have a CPA firm or I'm an attorney. How do I go about starting with the right marketing?
So first you have to figure out what your objective is. And I think in most cases, the objective should be to have a consultation, not to sell something, but to have a consultation. So, and then the other factors that you mentioned before, really understanding your client, who is your perfect client, who is not your, who do you want to stay away from, all those things. That's part of the process that we've covered before, and we don't need to belabor that right now, but that's all sort of foundational stuff that you have to understand first. And then the next part of it is, okay, well, where are they? How do I reach them? What's the, what is the market? And I think the third part is, okay, well, what can I give them for free to demonstrate my unique value as a hook, as a way to, as bait, you say bait for chum. I've heard you say that. to get them not to hire you, but to raise their hand and say, yes, I am interested in what you have to say. So it's really, when it comes down to it, it's very simple. It's a two-step process. It's giving something attractive, what marketing people call a lead magnet, and then following up with them. Even though it sounds simple, there's a lot of devil in the details. And frankly, most businesses are really lousy at following up. So even when we get them to a point where they can, dial it up or dial it down in terms of their lead flow, and I can give some examples too of my own, how I do it for myself. But most businesses, once they get a lead, a lot of money slips through their fingers because their follow up is not systematized. It's very haphazard. So I have some people that have hired me for my college advising business that have received marketing messages, no exaggeration, for 6 or 7 years before they hired me. Ideally, you pick up a whole bunch of people within 30 days, 45 days, 90 days of a marketing campaign, but that doesn't mean you should kiss off the rest of the leads that you generated.
And it's interesting in the sales field, we say that only 5% of your prospects may buy on the first call, but as many as 60 to 70% may buy by the sixth call. So most marketing people go out there and they skim the cream. They close the business that comes in on the first call, and then they never follow up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So your system is different.
Yeah. So just to be clear, I'm wondering if people watching this are having the same feelings and thoughts that I am. So I don't look at myself as a salesperson, and I don't look at myself as like a guy on a showroom floor or something. And I imagine most accountants and lawyers feel that way too. But my systems follow up with people, so I'm not calling someone 5 times. It's actually the opposite. What I'm trying to do, and this is also stuff we've talked about before, and I know we will again, is I'm trying to position myself just the way you do, as this guru at the top of the mountain. I have all their answers, and they have to apply to work with me, like I'm a guru or a college or something like that. So the way I demonstrate that unique value is by a bunch of different ways. But if I were just starting today, like going back to your original question, I would either do a live presentation, like on Facebook or Zoom, or I would write a free report or a book or something in the middle that does the same thing, which is brings them into this awareness of what they lack, which again is a Guilmette phrase, and establish my bona fides. Would have a bunch of testimonials from other clients in there, which is called social proof, and make them an offer and give them a deadline or some sort of scarcity. And then once they've raised their hand to get that report, or they've gone to that webinar, then they have the opportunity to apply for a consultation. And some people will, most people will not. And then from there, they get systematized follow-up that can really go on for years. Some of it's pre-written, some of it's just messages that I compose 3 or 4 times a week. But it all starts with that positioning as I have what you lack, and you are lucky to get a chance to work with me because I am unique. I'm the prize. And here, if you want to engage, here's how we do it. And if you don't, if you want to pass, that's great too.
That's something very important that you just said. You said, I'm the prize. I want everybody out there that's listening to realize that for the most part, most of my clients have always thought that the new prospect or the new client is the prize. And that causes you to behave totally differently than if you believe that you're the prize.
Right.
If you believe that you're the prize and they're lucky to have found you because you can make an impact in their lives, that's the mindset that you have to have behind your marketing, which you do exceedingly well.
Well, it's true also because there's only one of you and there's tens of thousands of them, people, business owners or whatever your market is. And you're the only version of you that they can get. So you have to understand what your unique value is, circling back to that phrase. And then you have to communicate it in a way that's going to attract the people that you want, and it'll repel the ones that you do not want. It's that simple.
It's very important to repel the ones that you do not want.
Yeah. So I do a lot of that with my application process. So I was going to show, right, we talked about me sharing my screen here. So hopefully this is going to work. I'll just quickly show. Let's see here. I'm going to show. So what I have people do, I use this. I have people fill out an application. I use this a system called JotForm, which is either free or very inexpensive. And the main way that I have people reach out to me after I do a webinar or offer a free report or write a book is they schedule a college strategy session, which is my way of saying consultation. So I don't know how easy this is to see. So I've been doing this a few years. I don't remember exactly how long ago I started using JotForm, but there's been a total of 988 submissions. And what I was going to show you was we're recording this in the beginning of December. So I want to show how many I generated last month, and then I'll describe how I did that. So last month, this is all November consultations. It was 46. Actually, one of them was me testing it out, so it's really 45. But these are all people who filled out a consultation form, which I'll show you.
And how do they find you to fill out that consultation form? They'd seen you on what, a webinar?
Yeah. Right. So I'll show you. I'll tell you that in a second. So, they fill out their information, and then they tell me what they're interested in, because we offer a couple of different things, either helping people pay or helping people get in. And I have some qualification information about the students. Then I started asking some open questions. What do you think is going to set your child apart from her competitors? What's your biggest obstacle? Why do you believe that our firm might be helpful to you? How did you hear about us? So the way that people hear about and get to that point is so last month it was actually a slower month. I actually put a chokehold on my consults because we had deadlines November 15th. So we basically shut down for 2 weeks. So most of those consultations were generated. I disabled the button. So most of those submissions were generated in the second half of November. And the main way that people are finding me these days is through referrals. The second main way is through webinars. And I do a fair amount to my own list on Zoom, but there are paid webinars. I did one pretty successful paid webinar with the Long Island Herald. I think it's owned by Schneps Media or something. I can't remember. There's two main papers. I can't remember which is which. But that was a few $1,000 to do that. But I got a return on investment literally within 8 days of doing that. So I personally try easily 15 to 18 different strategies of lead generation each month. If I were just starting today, I would do one, and I would get that to work, and then I would move on to the second one, because you don't want to have just one source. And typically the lowest hanging fruit is through referrals. So I would do a webinar to my own house database of my own clients and prospects first, and I would maybe do maybe a series of webinars, tax changes for what the Biden administration is going to do to your tax bill, or things like informative things like that get people's attention. And then at the end say, I'm offering a free consultation for up to 12 people who take me up on this, because we're about to shut down for the rest of the year. We're so busy trying to get everything done. I'll take if you want to bring in your old tax return from your old preparer, I will take a look at those. We can meet over Zoom, something like that, and that will provide value. You can point out things that they're not doing and make them an offer.
The whole process that you use is one of, and the one I like, it's like, rather than trying to convince people of something, you're more like drawing iron filings to a magnet. You're chumming them, as we said before, and getting their attention, and they go, got my attention, and then they want to follow that chum slick right up to the back of the boat where there's a big fat piece of fish or bait with a hook in the middle of it. And the whole idea is to get them to come up that chum slick voluntarily. Well, you're not doing any work. You're not pulling them. They're following it up. And then when they bite on that piece of bait with the hook, you can decide whether you want to reel them in as a client or not. You now have the opportunity to determine whether they're worthy of your time and effort.
Yep.
And that comes back to one of the first things we talked about, is that you have to identify your ideal client in writing and why they're your ideal client. Otherwise, how do you set up a marketing program to find them? So you've done that. You've gone through all of that.
Yeah, and to be fair, yeah. So in November, if we had 45 actual leads, there might have been, maybe 2 or 3 reschedules and no-shows. There were certainly 10 to 15 bad fits that I could tell, from the application. But I usually talk to them anyway because I never know who they're going to refer or not.
Right.
But there are occasionally some that I just turn away. We need a free ride for college. Can you help me get my kid into Harvard, get a free ride? And my response is usually, no, that's really a myth. There's no such thing as a free ride. And your child has a C+ average. So I don't think that's quite going to work out with us. But
2 drug convictions. But other than that,
that might help these days. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not, doesn't translate into 45 clients. It might translate into 1 out of 3 is usually my conversion ratio, because I'm selling services that are anywhere from $2,500 to more than $20,000. So usually it's about 1 out of 3 that ultimately sign up. And
that's not too different from what most CPAs are selling.
Okay.
Services, from $2,500 to $20,000 to $25,000 or more. And the bottom line is, the interesting thing, Andy, is that I don't care whether you're selling to a parent whose child is going to college or you're selling to a CEO of a company. They're all looking for the same thing. They want something very specific. Mm-hmm. And what you have to do is help them understand that how working with you, they can get that thing that they want.
Yeah. And I try to bring them into that awareness because ahead of time, before I speak to them via the webinar and via the free report, because again, it's a 2-step process. I'm not trying to sell on the initial step. No. It's more of a filtering and a messaging thing. I'm starting that thread of continuity that you talk about. So the 2 reasons I do that is, one is I'd rather bring them into this awareness of what they lack. We've talked about this before briefly, but it's people come to me, can you help me get scholarships, or can you help my kid get in? And I'll shift that conversation away from those sort of tactical things to more high level types of high level types of higher ground thoughts, such as, well, this is really about launching your child for success in the next 40 to 50 years of their lives, not the 4 years of college. This is not you rush to the airport, but you have no idea where the flight is going. This is about success for your child. So that is part of the awareness that it's a unique value proposition type of thing. And that usually gets the wheels turning, but it also excludes, some other people. I also talk about my fees up front in the, we're expensive. We're not right for everyone. Fees can be anywhere from $2,500 to more than $20,000. So they've all gotten that indoctrination before they decide whether or not to complete the strategy session questionnaire. So I'm trying to filter, I'm pre-qualifying, which means attracting the right people and trying to drive away the wrong ones. Yeah, and it's not perfect, but it helps a lot.
Well, one thing I want to bring up, Andy, is the process that you're using, which took you a while to build. It didn't happen overnight,
right?
And took time and energy, not a ton of money. It's not something you can throw millions of dollars at.
Right.
It's something you have to invest in time and energy and manage properly. The bottom line comes down to, you got 45 chances to get up to swing the bat at the plate. You got 45 at-bats.
Right.
But there were 45 qualified at-bats, or pretty well qualified at-bats. And as you said, out of 45, maybe there were 15 that were no good whatsoever. Mm. That still leaves 30 out of the month.
Right.
There isn't an accounting firm out there that wouldn't go absolutely batshit about getting 30 qualified prospects of exactly the size, type and shape that they want in the course of a month, they couldn't even handle it. Not even the 2,000 partner firm couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
And so the point I'm making is what you've done is you have a process that can be created for whatever size the business wants. Let's take a typical law firm. A typical law firm with, let's say there's 3 partners and 4 associates. They can't handle more than maybe 5 to 7 prospect meetings a month. They can't handle any more than that because they still have to practice law. So the process that you've developed for you is generating 45 prospects a month. That's way more than most of the professionals that I work with need. So the bottom line is it's a doable thing, but it's all process driven, and it's taken you a while to build it.
Yeah.
And you know how to do it, and you're working with some of my clients already on it, and you've been working with me, and I can attest to the fact that you know more about this stuff than anybody I've ever run into. There's no 2 ways about it. And you wouldn't expect it because that's not the business that you're in.
Right.
You know,
but it really is. That was my shift.
It really is the business that you're in, because really what you are is a marketer.
Yeah, I'm a marketer of my services, and that's the message I want anyone who's watching this to start considering whether that makes sense.
You're a marketer of the benefits that you're able to bring to the right people.
Yeah.
And it's the benefits you're able to bring. You're able to bring those people benefits that they're dying to get. And there probably isn't another way that they're going to find to get them without tremendous time, energy, and money spent. So you're a direct line to what people really want. And that's the same thing with every business that's listening to this. Mm-hmm. That if you haven't defined your ideal client and built a process to bring prospects to the door on a regular basis, it's a machine. You have a machine that's spitting them out.
Yeah.
What did you do the month before that? You did 45 with it.
It was like 32 or 33. Yeah.
So 32 or 33 and 45, you've got a machine that's spitting out a steady stream of prospects. Now, you had to build that machine.
Right.
And like any machine, you have to maintain it to keep it working and operating properly.
Good point.
Once you get that machine built, maintaining it and running it to keep it going properly, it just keeps spitting out prospect after prospect after prospect.
Yeah. So along those lines, I'm glad you brought this up. It's not effortless at all. It's the opposite. But I enjoy it. So it doesn't feel like work, but it absolutely, if someone looked over my shoulder all day, they would definitely see that it's work.
Yeah.
The other thing is, in the beginning, I remember when I first started really embracing this style of marketing, which was in the early 2000s, and then I had a partner. We had a business in Florida, and the idea was I was going to be the marketing person behind the scenes, and he was going to be the front, the face of the business. We went through, I think it was like 32 or 33 initial consultations, and he closed nobody. So then I had to, we're running out of money, it was not worth I think we probably spent like $1,500 or $2,000 total to run ads and get people at the YMCA, to show up. Mm-hmm. And it was really demoralizing, but we figured it out. Had we known you back then we probably would have closed, 5 at least, I would think, if not more. So there is a lot of trial and error, and even to this day. So I did a campaign. I was experimenting with the publisher of a different local sort of penny saver magazine, and I wrote all the copy that that works, that's worked for everything else I've done, and gave it to him to sort of propagate on his ads and email blasts and all that, and we struck out, and it's and we're still doing in the middle of the postmortem, but to me it's obvious that the email list that he had was terrible, and nobody reads his publication. I'm not blaming. Well, of course I'm not blaming myself because but I think I have reason to not blame myself because I'm using the exact same stuff.
It's the same thing you've been doing. It worked with the Long Island Press, right?
Yeah. So this is right. So there is still, even to this day, still trial and error. But overall, if you're willing to dip your toe in the water and start small, and again, everyone should start with their own house list, their own customers and clients, and do some sort of informational session with an offer. I think that's the easiest thing to do. Technology today, like Facebook, like what we're doing, it's either free or it's like a couple $100 to do it, and then keep doing it. And that's the thing. It snowballs after that. But you can start with a low-hanging fruit and reinvest those profits, and then continue, and then eventually you'll be able to generate leads at will, which is really how I look at my business today.
Well, you know, the interesting thing is, Andy, is that I'm doing a PowerPoint presentation for the internet right now on mining the gold in your own client base. And there isn't anybody that's out there right now that doesn't have a gold mine in their client base. That by going out and just beginning to mine, there are so many services that your clients desperately need that you're not delivering to them, that you can increase. If you've got a $1 million accounting firm, you can turn it into $1.5 million a year accounting firm without taking on a single new client, just with the gold that's in the client base. Now, we had a statement there, a question from David Goodman.
Yeah, he was talking about following up with his clients, so that's great. So yeah, the follow up, you know, like I said, it's good that you follow up because most people don't. But I keep them on my email list until they opt out. You know, it's buy or die. Like they'll keep getting my my information for years if they stay on my list. And sometimes, you know, sometimes they convert into very high value, high profit. They certainly know, you know, what my message is. And I just picked up a client in Georgia 2 days ago for about $14,000, and she was forwarded my information from her family who lives up here in Long Island, who responded to one of my my ads that I had done to give information out, so the grandfather said, "Hey, you got to check this out." Because I always say in my presentations, if you know anyone you think this would benefit, please share this information too. So even your bad leads can turn into good leads.
Yeah, absolutely. And the key is that you built a machine. You built a machine that brings you a steady flow of, in fact, in your own words, and I've seen it happen, a steady flow of more leads than you're capable of even handling.
Yeah, because you hear me complaining.
Huh?
Because you hear me complaining. Because on one end, I'm saying, "Wow, I generated 45 leads last month," and then thinking to myself, "Shit, I have to talk to 45 people." but that's just my personality. It's not really a marketing thing.
Yeah, to talk to them. But you enjoyed it too. You would do.
No, I do. Because I also try to time block myself. So it's not a full-time thing. I'll have 5 appointments a day or 4 appointments a day. So if I'm doing 5 to 10 appointments a week on Mondays and Tuesdays, that in the afternoons, between 3 to 6, that's when they can book with me. That leaves a lot of my other time free to do other things.
Right, and that time blocking is very important in this. So putting it together with what you know how to do to bring the business in the door and what I know how to do to bring the business in and close it and keep it.
Yeah.
Then we're a pretty good team. We've got some people we're working with, and we're a pretty good team that way. And there should be more of it out there. So if you're not generating all the business that you know what you can do with and all the right type of business, you ought to talk to us. We ought to sit down and have a conversation via the internet now, because we don't have to go out and have live presentations anymore. And by the way, when I first met you, you were doing live presentations at libraries. Mm-hmm. Like 2 a week at the time, I think. Yeah, it was,
that got to be a lot also. I mean, I had to cut down on those as well. But yeah, that was a great way. And the coolest part was that most of the libraries would actually pay me to show up. So I was getting paid to generate leads.
Yeah.
Even under the guise of giving information, which I was doing also. I wasn't holding anything back.
No, you were definitely giving out all the information.
Yeah.
The key was and this is the secret that anybody is listening to out there. If you can get somebody to fill a room for you, whether you get paid or not,
yeah,
and bring you in as the expert from afar, that generates tremendous value for you in picking up leads if you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Now, the program you put together has to have a thread of continuity of getting their attention and then bringing them down to the point where they're ready to close. And that's a process also. That's whether you do that process in person at the library or on Zoom with 50 people or 30 people or 10 people, that's a process also, which is part of what I do, is the process of closing it once you bring them in the door. How do you close them? Yeah. You and I had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, it's again, it's the bringing them into the awareness of what they lack. Yeah, well, one comment about what you said. The libraries usually do a really crappy job at marketing, at promoting.
Oh yeah.
So I never relied on them to do that. I would just do my own promotions to get people in. So a lot of times I would show up there, and they, like in the Syosset Long Island Library, and they were like, "Wow, we've never gotten so many people to our events. It's been really good." And then I started, every once in a while asking people like where they were from. And it was like, maybe 15% were from the library patronage, and then and other people just showed up there from wherever. Sometimes people drove from Jersey, to go to these things. So I was using the penumbra, of the library to legitimize as the expert from afar. Same thing with PTAs.
Validated as the expert from afar.
Yeah, but that all can be done now. I mean, I'll do that obviously now, so I'm doing it all by webinar. And occasionally in media, and that's an easy way to do it right now. I think it's more convenient. Yeah. So, all right, should we wrap up here? I think we went over time.
Wrap it up a little bit over time, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I think we learned a lot from today. If you liked what you had to say, let us know.
Yeah, pop it right in the comments if you're watching this on Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever. And if you are interested in trying to improve your lead flow, your revenue, even out the ups and downs that all of us entrepreneurs struggle with. I look at this big process as a funnel. I'm good at helping people fill the top of the funnel, and Neil's good at taking them through to closing from there. So that's why I agree with you. We're a great team. So reach out to us, drop a comment in, and we'll get back to you.
By all means, thanks for listening.
All right, take care.